Hi, my name's Vic and welcome to this episode of The Armourer's Bench. And today we're going to be looking at Colt's CGL4 40mm underslung grenade launcher. This was developed by Colt at the Army's bequest and was known in military service as the XM148. So let's look at it in close-up. As you can see, it's underslung under the barrel, much like the replacement the M203 was. This being the predecessor to all underslung 40mm grenade launchers. It's interesting in its concept, which was laudable, and also in the execution, which was questionable to say the least. It was designed by Colt's design project engineer Carl Lewis, who managed in only 47 days to write the specification, design the launcher, draw the original diagrams, and had a working model built and could demonstrate it to the authorities, which is a fantastic achievement. But you can see where the problems arose, mainly in that very quick design aspect, which of course was with very little input from potential users. But being the first on the market, it's going to have problems, and obviously now, many years down the road, 50 years down the road, we can see that the system and the concept has been improved an awful lot. Okay, so prior to development and fielding the XM148, a US Army Grenadier was issued an M79 Grenade Launcher as his primary weapon. That's the blooper in affectionate terms in US Army service, and an M1911A1 pistol as a secondary or personal defense weapon. And whilst the M79 was used by a dedicated grenadier within an infantry squad, he couldn't really help in a firefight if there was small arms fire. Okay, let's have a look at the launcher itself. As you can see, it has a secondary pistol grip. You press in this release catch and slide the barrel and the locking piece, which is the pistol grip, forward. Now if you turn the weapon on its side, you can see the breech area here. The breech opening would obviously be difficult to use unless you turned the weapon on its side, because the grenade would just fall out. But when you load it, you place it in the slot and push the grenade as far forward as possible into the barrel, where it latches. You then grasp the pistol grip and bring it back to the locked position, and at that point the rim of the 40mm cartridge is engaged by the extractor, which is fastened to the breech face. Let's pull it to the rear and see. It's quite stiff. At this point also the device should be cocked automatically. It's stiff in operation and it can give problems, especially if there's any ingress of dirt or particles between the barrel and the receiver tube. You can see here I'm now activating, or trying to activate, the manual cocking piece with the trigger finger. This would take about a 30-pound force, which was considered excessive in the heat of battle if it needed to be recocked. This is the firing mechanism, the trigger bar, which is on an extended about 3mm or 1/8 of an inch steel rod. You can have the trigger so that it's pivoted upwards, so that it's in the same position as the rifle's trigger, or you can move it downwards so that you can use it independent of the trigger guard. And this thing swivels around with aplomb. It's very difficult to stop it from moving away from where you want it. It's one of the shortcomings of the design. Now, above my left hand you can see a small ring. This is where normally the swivel would be mounted on the side of the grenade launcher, and the sling swivel on the rifle should be fastened upwards with locking wire or removed altogether. And we can see that in an example that I used to own, which has that sling swivel on the rifle removed and the sling swivel on the side of the grenade launcher fitted. This would allow the weapon to be slung or carried by the sling. But again, one of the failings, it can get knocked out of alignment, and that sling can get caught in all sorts of parts of the gun. This is the upper handguard, which is steel, perforated for cooling, but a lot of heat still gets transferred to it on firing, so holding on to the bottom of the grenade launcher is the preferred method of carrying. As you can see here, the forward sling swivel is interfering with the front of the barrel, which would be a dangerous position. This is a drill purpose rifle, ex-British Army service, so it shows it up. And this is my example with the sling swivel removed. Okay, as you can see on the left hand side of the weapon, we've got the indirect fire sight. This was also another cause for complaint because it hangs out the side of the rifle like a Christmas tree. It catches on anything and everything. If you're moving through brush, brush could get caught between the receiver and the gun, and the receiver and the sights, pulling the sights out of alignment, damaging them, and they're quite difficult to use with any degree of accuracy if you are in a firefight. As you can see, this weapon is marked with a red band around the muzzle, and those who can see it and are astute enough, you can see there's a hole drilled in the barrel as well. It's a very early AR-15, ex-British Royal Marine Commandos issued gun. In this collection here, it's basically used to showcase the grenade launcher. The rifle itself is deactivated. The Colt designed CGL-4 grenade launcher that the Army designated M148 was a revolutionary weapon that allowed infantry soldiers to engage the enemy beyond the range of hand grenades without the necessity of carrying the standalone M79 40mm grenade launcher. Prior to the adoption of the 40mm grenade, rifle grenades were employed as early as World War I, and efforts to launch rifle grenades from the semi-automatic M1 Garand during World War II succeeded in 1943 with the introduction of the M7 launcher. This was a spigot launcher fastened to the muzzle of the rifle, which used a special blank cartridge. The semi-automatic feature of the rifle is temporarily disabled by the fitting of the grenade launcher, which vents the gas out of a specially adapted plug in the front of the gas block on the M1 Garand. The M7 grenade system proved to be combat effective, but a simpler system was needed that resulted in the development of the M79 Grenade Launcher, which is a system which is dedicated solely to the firing of 40mm grenades, although flechette and buckshot rounds were also developed. Here we can see the CGL-4 together with a 40mm round, typical that would be fired. It's a more modern round than the ones that would have been issued during its lifetime, but let's just demonstrate how we would load it. Turn it over, take the round, don't just drop it in, but shove it into the breech and then close the breech. And of course, I couldn't end this segment on 40mm grenade launchers without getting into the granddaddy of them all, the M79 blooper. Handheld Grenadiers grenade launcher, but only problem was that was it. It was a grenade launcher on its own. The grenadier who would operate it would of course use his sidearm, which would typically be a 1911A1 pistol, 45 caliber, and this. He could load this with buckshot. There was a buckshot round. There was also a flechette round, but it means he had to have an assortment of ammunition with him and then swap it around. But an excellent piece that's still in service with a lot of people today. As we can see, this example, quite stock. It has the plastic buttstock instead of the wood version, but it still has the wood front handguard. Excellent weapon, still loaded today. Pop. If you like what you've seen, please like, share and subscribe. Help us help you. See you later.